So if you guys want to ask any questions, go ahead. Again, today's call, the objective is just for me to answer as many questions as possible. So first things first, do not re-ask your question 100 times. I will get to it. And we're going to start off with the first question, which is by iPhone, which is, what is the best entry model for US 30? So there is no best entry model, but what I would say is that with US 30, what you want to look at is confluences. You want to look at price action essentially moving. What that means is, for example, this trade that we caught back here previously, right? We see that price action broke above, broke down below, broke above, created a double top, broke down, and then broke up again to hit a Fibonacci retracement of, I believe, 50 to then break down. So that's what you want to look for. You want to look for different confluences of the market doing what you want it to do, essentially having a breakout, having a retracement from a breakout, and then continuing that trend from that breakout. So moving on to question number 2, which is, do you use swing lows and swing highs for your entry point? So question number 2 is an amazing question. Do I use swing lows and swing highs for entry points? Absolutely. I look at the bigger time frames, such as the 4-hour time frame, to determine if I'm going to be entering a bull market or bear market, depending on what I'm trading. So for example, I don't know why the 4-hour wasn't showing there, but we'll use the 1 hour. If you look at the 1 hour and you look at US 30 from a broad perspective, you could see that it was in an area of consolidation, right? All of this is consolidation until it broke towards the upside. And once it broke towards the upside, what I looked for was the highest point that it could reach before it comes back down and hits an area of support, which is past resistance. So moving on to question number 3. How do you manage to learn on when you lose and not keep trading in order to get back your losses, meaning discipline? So that's an amazing question, and a question that really requires mental discipline. Here's what I mean by that. When you take a loss, the normal mindset is, I want to get back what I lost. It's almost like, have you guys ever heard the saying, you don't know what you lost until you lose it? Like, you don't know what you had until you lose it. The exact same with trading. You have capital, and your job as a trader is to protect your capital at all costs. Now, let's say that you only have $500, $1,000. I would personally recommend you to take risk, right? Because, $500, $1,000 is not a lot of money. So if you have that type of money, go and take risk. Now, when you get to up to 10,000, 20,000, that's where you have to be mindful of the risk that you're taking and protect your capital at all costs. But at some point, you have to take the risk. Now, how do you manage to lose a trade and not keep trading? Well, it's very simplistic. You close your iPhone. You close your computer. You do not look at the charts for the rest of the day, regardless of what's going on. Regardless if you would have won the next 10 trades in a row, you don't look at them. That all comes with discipline and psychology as you keep learning and developing yourself as a trader. So moving on to the next question. What happened to the Telegram VIP? I'm a lifetime member. So for that, the best thing to do is hit up our support desk on Discord. And if you are a lifetime member, you would be added. So just do that so you're good to go. Okay, so the following question is, okay, my issues with the signals is that I have an Android and I cannot set my phone to alert me loud enough or enough repetition to take the signal when they come in and I miss them. Any recommendation? So if you have an Android and you keep missing the signals, this is your signal to upgrade to an iPhone, in my opinion. Now, I would recommend you go onto the notifications app on Discord on your Samsung and try to see if you could have a different type of alert or sound for them. But, for this, I'm an iPhone user. So, yeah, I don't know what to say here. The second question you have is there a window when the signals will come in? Example, like the first hour of New York? Yes. So typically, I always send signals by the morning from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and sometimes by the afternoon from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Those are the two typical times I send out signals each and every single day, from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern time and from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern time. Now, the following questions are alerts still just on Telegram? No, majority of the alerts are on Discord. I just send them on Telegram a few times so you guys could join the Discord. But any type of signals, anything is on the Discord. But you guys now could go on the chat box and leave some comments. Trading related. Okay, here's a really good question. How many, let me move this over to this screen. Perfect, okay. Cool. So here's a really good question. Let me make this big, that big. 1 second while I make this screen bigger so I can see the questions a lot easier. And zoom into this a little bit. Okay. So how many entries do you do for one signal? One entry to hit, okay, sorry, I reread that wrong. How many entries do you do for one signal? One entry to hit take profit and then the other for break even to the second one. Should I do a 1-to-1 risk to reward or 1 to 0.5 to be safe? So typically what I do when I send out a signal or take a trade is I typically enter 2 to 3 positions. Now, this is all dependent on how much money your account has and how much risk you could essentially take. So with me, I enter 3 positions. First position is take profit 1. The other 2 positions are take profit 2. And when take profit 1 hits, I move my stop loss to break even on the other 2 positions so they could go and hit take profit 2. If I see the market is not going to go and hit take profit 2, then I would close out early on the other remaining positions. So, opinion on order flow. I think order flow is great if you understand how to utilize it. Everything in trading has its place. Like there's a place for everything in this system. The problem is that people don't know how to utilize or don't know how to correctly utilize that system for them to be profitable trading long term. But order flow is great. How do you know when to hold for take profit 2 or onwards? It really depends on the trade. I mean, I could give you so many examples on how do I know if I should wait for it to hit take profit 2? But the main example here is when the market is moving in a direction with a lot of momentum. When a market's moving like this, right? For example, like we had the trade previously last week, that we see a lot of momentum towards the downside, that's when I know to hold to take profit 2. Or when I send out a signal early by the morning at 9:30, hold it to take profit 2 because we have the rest of the morning/afternoon to hold that trade. So I hope that helps out. Why do you only trade US 30? Why not any currencies or stocks? Also, what do you think of high frequency trading, which I'm assuming HFX is that, or clarify what HFX is and what would be the best margin leverage you should use from your broker. So 3 questions. Okay. The first one is, why do you only trade US 30? Why not any currencies or stocks? Very simply explained. I like US 30 because of the volatility. I mean, if you look at the market right here, right, I'm going to put my mic a little bit to the side, go on to the 10-minute. In 10 minutes, right, from here, let's say 9:30, which is opening bell, in 10 minutes from opening bell, from the bottom to the top, 131 points. In the following 10 minutes, 200 plus points. In the following 10 minutes, 360 plus points. That's why I love US 30, because of the volatility. You don't have to wait days and days for something to happen. Every day at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, typically something happens with US 30 or around 1-2 p.m. Eastern time. But almost every day of the year besides holidays, US 30 is volatile. It has movements. It has points that you could go and catch. And that's the important part for me. So that's why I only trade US 30. Now, what do I think of high frequency trading, which is another question. I think that if you're trading US 30, it's really good. If you're trading a slow Forex pair, it's really bad. High frequency trading is for a volatile market. It's not for a slow moving market. And high frequency trading typically works best when a market is consolidating. If a market, for example, is just moving in one direction, why are you going to open and close, open and close, open and close, open and close, opposed to opening, letting it run, and then closing? Now, if you stumble across a market that's consolidating like this, where it goes up and down, up and down, up and down, then high frequency trading where you open and close, and then open again towards the other direction and close makes more sense. The third question is, what is the best margin or leverage? What's the best leverage you should set on your broker? So I use GateFX as my primary broker. It's the broker of choice that I like to use due to a number of facts, such as they have trade locker with a deposit bonus. They're going to be regulated really soon. They have MT5 with the fastest execution I've ever seen. And the leverage I use personally on GateFX is the 1 to 1,000 leverage on their ECN account type. To utilize that account type, you do need to deposit a minimum of 500, but you're getting the lowest spreads possible, raw spreads. The commission is only $7.50 per trade, which is nothing in my opinion, especially if you're trading US 30, and you get 1 to 1,000 leverage, which is amazing. Now, the following question. Recommended for first-time beginners, or do you recommend your VIP for someone who's beginning? Okay, so do I recommend my services to someone who's a complete beginner in this industry and doesn't know how to do anything? Do I recommend my personal services, channel, Discord, Telegram, and I do not recommend them it. I don't recommend anyone who's a beginner what I do to follow my signals or to follow the way I teach. I highly recommend people to go and learn how to trade first, learn how to take a signal, learn how to do all these things, and then they could come join my community. I don't like teaching beginners. I don't have the patience for it because it's very exhausting to teach someone everything. I rather get someone that knows a little bit and take them far than having to start from the very, very beginning. And that's just because, I find it easier to teach something advanced to someone who's an intermediate person and understands the foundation of things than getting someone who's a complete beginner and teaching them the foundation and teaching them how to set up a trade and how to have the proper psychology. It's just my personal preference. There's a bunch of traders out there that do teach beginner traders. So, those are the traders that you'll want to go if you're a complete beginner. Now, the following question from Amy says, do you think 15 minutes ORB strategy works well? What is ORB? Can you please type what that means? And then I'll go back to your question. Okay. I signed up to Voltex and that was a big scam, so everyone knows. I don't even know what Voltex is. I'm assuming it's going to be a prop firm or a broker, and I'm sorry that it was a big scam. Can you write down why it was a big scam, if you do not mind? Someone else says, well, this is a really good question. Could I continue taking your signals while learning how to trade? Absolutely. You could take my signals and learn how to trade if you are already at a stage where you know how to take signals, you know how to exit, you know how to put your take profit, your stop loss, and you understand from a intermediate level, okay, this is why Lewis sent out the signal, because he sees a higher high being formed, or he sees a retracement and then probably a continuation of a trend after that retracement is retraced to. So absolutely, you could take my signals and still learn how to trade. But the goal is essentially to stop taking my signals and trade by yourself. Okay, so opening. RB opening. Can you just describe what ORB stands for so I could help you out? Because I don't know what it stands for, unfortunately. Sir, can you repeat your broker? I didn't fully hear. Yeah, the broker is GatesFX. That's the broker I use. Okay. What's the difference between 1 to 500 and 1 to 1,000 leverage? Very simplistic. We're going to grab a text, put it here, right? Let's say you have $100 in your account. Where is my text? Oh, it's not letting me write it with that keyboard. My bad. Okay, let's say you have $100 in your account and you have a leverage of 500, right? You're basically gonna get that $1,000 and multiply it times 500, right? Which is gonna equal, I believe, 50,000. I'm gonna use the calculator, but I believe that's what it would equal. Yes, it would equal 50,000. So now you have the leverage to take positions that a $50,000 account could take on a $100 account. Basically, that's how leverage works. So if you multiply this times 1,000, then you'll have enough margin to take positions a $100,000 account should take. And this is why brokers exist, because brokers give you leverage to trade in the Forex market. Now, going back to Amy, I believe that's your name. It says opening range breakout. Okay. I do trade that all the time. I just didn't know what it stands for. So opening range breakout. So we all understand what a range is here. A range is very simplistic. We're going to grab right here. I'm going to grab the demonstrator. This is what a range is. You have this line, and the market goes up and down, up and down, up and down. So a lot of times during the New York session, you have a range. And then in that range, you have the market breaking from the range towards either the upside or the downside. Should you trade that range? Absolutely. But wait to see where it breaks out to. Because if we have a range down here where this is clearly support, and then you have a range right here where this is clearly resistance, you wait to see the market break. It breaks towards the upside, comes back down to hit that resistance to have a retracement, and then continues toward the upside. So, it's very simplistic to trade that. You just need to be aware of price action and see where is the momentum going to. If the momentum is bullish, you buy. If it's bearish, you sell. So what is the minimum we should have to start, and what lot size, as well as how many positions? What is the minimum amount of money you should have to trade? Again, it depends on what you're trading. So if you're trading Forex pairs, I would recommend to have an account of like $5,000, in my opinion. If you're trading indices, you should have an account of $10,000. Now, if you don't, like me back in the day, then I would recommend starting with at least $1,000 and taking risk, because if not, you're never going to grow your account. That's just the honest truth. Now, following question, how did you learn to not close out fast? Which is a really good question. How did I learn not to close out positions fast? That is where I really learned how to do that, just, respecting my take profits. Because most people that trade, let's say they enter the market right here and their take profit is up here, right? They close right here as soon as they make a little bit of money. You have to respect your take profits as much as you respect your stop losses. If you set a stop loss down here, I don't see you moving your stop loss up here. If anything, I see people doing the opposite, moving it more down and more down. With trading, the best way of respecting yourself and not closing out a position early is letting the position hit your take profit. That's why you put a take profit. So that's the best thing I can recommend. Now, let's see the following question from Tony. I signed up and made an XRP deposit with the wallet it gave me, and they never got it. They then sent me the correct wallet. I go online to look up the wallet, and of course, it's connected to my first wallet I sent XRP to. I have screenshots showing that wallet I sent XRP to, and the other wallet they said they won't admit. Okay, here's what I would recommend for you. Go to the help desk and ask for someone named Arturo. Ask for Arturo. Say, hey, can I please speak to Arturo? Once you speak to him, then explain to him your problem. He's one of the best support agents and he will help you out. So write down his name, please, Arturo. Just say, hey, may I please speak to Arturo on their help desk and he will help you out. I hope this helps you, but I'm sure that guy will help you. Arturo is the one that I speak to all the time when I have any issues on the broker. Arturo, the first one. Let me type it in for you. Perfect. All right. Would you go textbook with trading, meaning your experience putting you lower, and higher highs, and scope your trading using fibs and indicators to help you out? Would I go old school with trading and use what old school has taught us, opposed to using a bunch of indicators? Absolutely. When have you guys ever seen me use an indicator? I don't even have any on the left-hand corner. I am a person that trades old school. Old school works because the most successful traders in the world were the traders in the 80s, the 90s, and the second century, right? So if they are utilizing the basics that work, why aren't you going to utilize the same basics? Why are you going to try to complex the system? Think about boxing or think about a sport. You know, with boxing, what are the basics? 1, 2, right, which is your jab, your straight. 3, 4, which is your crosses. 5, 6, which is your uppercuts. Utilize the basics. The basics work. There are a reason that they always end up getting high levels of success with the basics. Within that range, which is the following question, within that range breakout, we're talking about how do you know when to exit when there is a clear structure heading towards your TP. So let's say that there's a range, correct? Range right here, right where the market's going up and down. If there's a range, and let me re-say this. So I'm gonna redo the whole thing. So let's say there's a range, right, where the market's going up and down, up and down, up and down. Where do I know where to exit out of the range? I believe that's your question. Where do you know how to exit out of the range? So you're trading inside the range. So every range has a support and a resistance. So if you look here, there's the support, there's the resistance up here. If you are trading in the range, you're looking for the area of support or resistance that the market is headed to, and that would be a good indication of where to exit the range. Because there's going to be more areas of support and resistance that the range touches rather than a breakout. In a range, there's only one breakout, but there's multiple areas of support or resistance being hit. So if you're trading in a range, look for those areas to exit. Support or resistance, don't expect that the next area the market hits will be a breakout. Very unlikely, but not impossible. Okay, the next question. Do you check my FX book before you trade? Every day I check my FX book before I trade. Reasoning is because of the volatility that it causes on US 30, a red folder. So yes, I check the news every day before I trade. It's one of the things that is, just like my body naturally does. I just naturally check it. You always have to do that. How do I get in the Discord for premium signals? You basically just pay the subscription and you get the premium signals. So you're good there. For sure, appreciate that. I continue to see a lot of candles stabbing before closing when in the breakout. So yeah, when you're trading a range, you're always going to see candles trying to stab, meaning trying to wick out. Don't go based off the wicks. Go based off a full candle closure with a full body breaking out of that area. Meaning, we're going to erase this real quick so I could show you guys an example. We'll use this example right here. We'll go on to the 15-minute. And we'll use this example. Trend line. We'll use a simple trend line. And then another trend line. So you see that the market's going basically from down here, it goes up, wicks it, comes down, tries to wick it, goes up, tries to wick it, goes down, tries to wick it, but doesn't break towards the bottom. Why? Because it's a wick. It's not a full body closure. Then you see the market tries to go up, wicks it again with the same candle, and then the following candle, it breaks towards the upside. Once it breaks towards the upside, then it comes down, and this is what you want to look at in a range. If the market comes down to the middle of the range, right, and does not surpass the middle, and then continues to go towards the upside, in this case, then it's a good explanation, or a good confirmation, I rather say, for the market to continue its breakout from a range. So, yeah. Any following questions? Oh shit, my coffee. What's a good lot size for a 50K account? And is that all the entries if you have multiple? So for a 50K account, it really depends on what you're trading. If it's Forex, 0.25, 0.50 are good lot sizes for Forex pairs. If it's indices and you have a 50K account, stick to 0.05, 0.01. That's around a good a good lot size. Depending on where your stop loss is, and depending on where your take profit is. So it's all based off stop loss and take profit. If your stop loss is a very narrow, tight stop loss, you could use a higher lot size. If your stop loss is a wide stop loss, meaning there's a lot of room to go for, then use a smaller lot size. Is US 30 and NAS 100 similar in structure? Meaning, do they move the same? And yes, they do. I'll divide this chart into two right here. And the chart underneath is going to be the one that is NAS 100, right? And on this chart, I'm going to go to the 15-minute. So you see here that they move very similar, right? But sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do the complete opposite of one another, which makes no sense. But majority of the time, they're moving very similar. So for example, look at this. We'll use this right here. We see that the market right here moves towards the downside, right? Previous market moves towards the downside. And then we see here that it ranges, the same thing here. It ranges towards the upside. This moves towards the upside a little bit more aggressively. And then right here, we see that it breaks towards the upside. And here we see that it breaks towards the upside. And we see here that it starts to range, right? And then break down. And then the same thing here. It starts to range and break down. So yes, they do move in a similar way. I'm a bad winner. I can take a loss, not a win. And every time I'm out, it always moves to TP. How do I deal with that? Okay. So you have a really good question. Your question is, I'm a really bad loser, but every time that I lose, the trade then turns around and hits TP. So this is something that happens to a lot of traders, and it messes them up like bad. Like it just messes them up. It messes up your psychology, worst of all, because you think that every time that I take a trade and lose the trade, then it goes to TP. What is happening there is very simple. You're entering the market too early. That's how simple it is. You're entering the market too early. Wait before you enter. Have more confirmations of a market going to the direction you predict it's going to go to before entering. That's something that could really help you out. But yeah, besides that, it seems like we don't have any more questions besides this last one. I'm going to answer this last question, these last two questions that came in, and then call it a night due to the fact that it is a Sunday night. So I don't want to take up much of your guys' time. Let me go back to just one screen, US 30. And the last two questions. The first one is, what is a better account type to open, ECN account or deposit bonus account? So the best account type to open on DataFX is if you have money, the raw ECN account if you have money. If you don't have a lot of money, the deposit bonus account type, because whatever you deposit, they match it with 100%. So if you deposit $1,000, they match it with another $1,000, and now you get to trade with $2,000. So those are the best account types to use depending on how much money you have. The second question is, how much do you risk per trade when in the building stages of growing a small account like a $2,000 account? So when I was growing the $2,500 account, I took that account to $8,000 in the course of a month and a half, almost 2 months. And I was risking about $100 per trade. So I would have to lose 25 times consecutively to blow the account. So that was how much I was risking on an account an account of a balance of $2,500. Last question is 9:30 opening bell. What is your plan before entering? I know it's relative per trading day, but what is your plan before opening a position? My plan is always the same. I look at market structure. I look at breakouts. I look at markets hitting support and resistance, and I try to understand three things. The first thing is there news, right? Let's say there's news. Great. If there's news, there's a possibility of a breakout. Moving on to number 2. Are we trading in a market that's consolidating with inside a range, meaning it's just hitting support and resistance? And number 3 concludes with number 1 and number 2. If there is news, is it orange or red? If it's orange, it can continue in that range. If it's red, there's possibly a breakout that's going to occur. My job is to sit and wait for the breakout to happen. Once the breakout happens, I continue to wait for a retracement. Once there's a retracement with confirmation of the market heading the same direction that it broke out to, I enter the market. And that's how I trade opening bell. And lastly, someone said, thank you, Lewis. I appreciate your video. I appreciate all of you guys for joining. I'll be doing another Q&A next Sunday, so I hope to see you all there. Besides that, I hope you all have an amazing weekend, and I appreciate you all for joining today.